longer. Now, once our borders were reopened, we know that given the nature of international travel, and given the fact that no system is foolproof, that it was probably just a matter of time before we began to have a serious outbreak of COVID-19 in Grenada. However, we believe that more could have been done, and even at this late stage, should be done to mitigate and to offer greater protection to the local population. To this end, the NDC proposes that the quarantine period of 2 days, 48 hours, and we understand in some cases even less, that should be scrapped, and we should revert to a minimum of 1 week quarantine for all people entering the country, vaccinated or unvaccinated, because it is common knowledge that even vaccinated people can spread the virus. Given the length of the incubation period, 2 days is not sufficient to catch someone who may have contracted the virus between the time that they did their PCR test prior to entering our country and 48 hours after their arrival here. So we believe that the government should do an about turn on that and go back to the 1 week quarantine minimum. At the end of the day, even as we try to fully reopen our economy, we cannot be penny wise and pound foolish, because if we get it wrong, then we wouldn't just have to engage in restrictions, but in total shutdown, as is occurring in some of our fellow CARICOM countries, and that would be quite counterproductive regarding economic revival. We also believe that the government should implement a free nationwide testing program and also random testing. This is something I've been saying for quite a number of months, that if you do random testing, you are quite likely to catch whatever little cluster may have gone through the cracks otherwise. We know that in a country the size of the United States, for example, with about 350 million people, sometimes they do a survey of 1,000, 1,002 people and come to within 2 to 3 percentage points of accuracy regarding the mood of the people on certain items, politics or otherwise. So we think that random testing is a good way to go, and announce it in advance at different centers where it will be held so that people can make themselves available. We do not want to wait until people start showing symptoms before the system catches up with them. We believe too that at this stage in particular, it is necessary for there to be designated national quarantine facilities. In the event of a major outbreak, having people self-quarantine may be an option, but if you notice, many of our people simply do not have the physical facilities at home. There are some households with 8, 10, 12 people in it. It is virtually impossible to practice safe self-isolation in an environment like that, where people have to share the same bathroom, the same kitchen, 2, 3 persons to a bedroom, and so on. So we believe that if we have properly equipped national quarantine facilities, that could go a long way towards helping us face the situation and overcome it should things become worse than they are at the moment. Now, if you have such facilities, people have to be trained to man them. And it is not too late to start identifying competent people to go through the necessary training to handle a quarantine facility. We know that our regular health personnel will be stretched thin, and therefore we do not want to put additional burden on them. So now is a good time, we believe, to get other people involved in the system in terms of contact tracing and isolation at a quarantine facility and so on. That would mean ensuring that the proper personal protective equipment in sufficient quantity is available for use at those facilities and by the personnel that will be engaged in or engaged at those facilities. Yeah. A national COVID unit, at least one, properly equipped with beds, ventilators, and any other necessary tools and equipment. We believe that the time for that, well, it should have been done a long time ago. But even if it were done, then there's obviously now a need to upgrade and to expand. The experiences of others show that no matter how well prepared you are, how well equipped you are, you'll still find yourself under strain and under stress. So the better prepared you are, the better you'll be able to handle the situation if and when it arrives. Yeah? Education, public education. There can never be too much public education regarding COVID-19 or any other infectious disease. And in that regard, we would like to recognize that some attempt has been made by the government. The NDC as a party has also done quite a bit, even with our limited resources. I'm sure you know the little promo that we have, the little jingle that we have that is played frequently during the GBN news, wear your mask, da, 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 da.
Yes.
So for those who are saying that all we do is criticize, I am asking them to please unblock the ears and the eyes and to focus on what we have been doing. We think that the education needs to be targeted. Sometimes you need a general blast, but sometimes you need to say, all right, today we are dealing with the chamber. Today we are dealing with lawyers. Today we are dealing with GCNA or something like that, all right? And as much as possible, get competent professionals to engage in the education aspect of it rather than politicians. We know how much trust people have in politicians, all right? Yeah. And, we need to get the medical professionals and others, but particularly medical professionals, to help debunk all of the myths, the fake news, the conspiracy theories that are permeating social media and that are creating unnecessary fear and panic in people. On a personal note, I would like to urge everyone to do what you can to help spread the message that we need to take COVID seriously. We need to always mask up in public places, wash and sanitize as much as we can. Do not go out if you don't have to. Avoid crowded places. And please, if you decide you do not want to get vaccinated for whatever reason, that is your choice, that is your right. But I will urge you to please not keep spreading all of these things that scare people away from wanting to get vaccinated. Because if you do a little research, the vast majority of the people who spread the misinformation, you do a little research into their background, many of them, if not all of them, come from very dubious sources, not very credible. They take a little bit of truth and they weave it into a set of conspiracies and some of the things that if you really take your time to examine them, they just do not make sense. And the thing about the conspiracy theories and theorists is that they keep shifting the goalpost. So first of all, they say that the vaccine was to kill out poor people and black people. When the vaccine was finally available and the rich countries, which are predominantly white, started to hoard it for themselves, the same people who said that the vaccine was designed to kill poor people and black people turn around and say that they're hoarding the vaccine because they don't want poor people and black people to get better or to avoid contracting the disease. So we have to be careful about what we spread, what we propagate. Yeah. The social partners, we know that government in the past has had a very good relationship with the trade unions, with the Chamber of Commerce, churches, and so on, NGO community. It is important that all such organizations, Bar Association, Medical Association, get involved, get on board, but it must be done in an above-board manner so that people can feel that their contribution is worthwhile, it's valued. And with that kind of approach, we believe that we'll put ourselves in a much better position to tackle the crisis that our country faces at this moment. Yeah? Very, very important, Blossom. The question of leadership and the question of leading by example. It was rather unfortunate to see last week 2 senior government ministers, one of them, lamentably, the Minister of Health, posing in public with a foreign celebrity who came from a country that is being ravished by COVID-19 without mask and in very close proximity to each other. That type of behavior in other countries has led to ministers and chief medical officers being sacked from their jobs. Just in Scotland, the chief medical officer was made to resign after he violated COVID protocols. And a couple of weeks ago, the UK's Minister of Health himself had to resign for similar infractions, okay? So we are urging all those of us in positions of power and authority, leadership, to set the tone by doing the right thing. You see, saying that it is never a good defense that because Blossom did it, I can do it too. That is never a defense. At least not a good one. But we must remember that human beings are very subjective creatures for the most part. And if you are the one telling me that this thing is so good and so necessary, but you are not practicing it, then you're undermining the validity of your message and you are causing people to not take things seriously. We know the old song, if the priest could play, who is me? So we are issuing a call for all in positions of leadership, particularly our government ministers, to not only talk the talk, but to walk it also. Lead by example. Because when you're faced with an emergency of this nature, one of the key questions is trust. If people cannot trust you to behave properly, then they probably will not trust your word. And therefore, when you ask that they make certain sacrifices or take certain measures, they are not as likely to heed your call as if you were upfront and above board with them. So please, leaders, and by leaders, I'm also referring to leaders in industry, leaders in the trade union movement, business, leaders of the NDC and any other political organization. We have a very grave responsibility to show to our people that this is not a time for party politics. This is a time where our country faces a grave threat, and we all have to pull together in the interest of our nation.
In terms of the concern with how the virus is being spread locally, the activities that have been held that the Prime Minister labeled as super spreader events, including the private parties, the carnival-like activities. What are your thoughts on where the focus should be in terms of identifying, I don't want to say which one is to be blamed, but where exactly it started to get out of control?
It is my view that the breakdown started with the reduction of the mandatory quarantine period. Remember that prior to this latest outbreak, that we had been relatively untouched by COVID-19. We had gone very close to 2 years, well over a year and a half, without having any serious outbreak. all of the cases, barring one or two, were those that were directly traceable to recent arrivals. And we were able to nip it in the bud by catching them at the quarantine phase. I thought it was a bit reckless, too much of a gamble, to reduce the quarantine period to a mere 48 hours, given the incubation period of the virus and given the known fact that even vaccinated people can spread it. So I believe that that is where the problem originated. And naturally, where you have large concentrations of people, then that is fertile ground for its transmission. So one mistake was added to the original one. And that is why it is no use now crying and wringing our hands about how it started, but learning the lesson of how it started and trying our best not to repeat the mistake. At the same time, people have to take individual responsibility for their own health and for their own lives. And also, we have to consider our fellow citizens, even people in our own homes, because when you go out into these massive events and you expose yourself to it, you can carry it back home. And I don't think that any one of us would want for our loved ones to come down with COVID-19 and to get it in a serious way. We all know the potential consequences of that, yeah? So while it is good that we identify the source and we try to not repeat mistakes as a correct crying about who started it, who is to blame,
yeah, I was about to tell you to
yeah, let me try.
Cut off the call because it's hampering your audio. Turn back on the camera.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Vaccine. Part of the COVID-19 conversation is the vaccine. Just today's Tuesday. So yesterday, ministry has added the Pfizer vaccine to its rotation. But first, let me ask a question. Somebody on Facebook is inquiring. Are you vaccinated?
Yes, I'm fully vaccinated, as is my wife.
All right. And the two vaccines currently available to us, AstraZeneca and Pfizer. Any thoughts on either? Yeah, just yesterday, Pfizer got full approval from the FDA, so it's no longer for emergency usage, just fully approved. So your thoughts on the two options available?
Well, it's always good to have choices. When I took mine, I had two choices: take it or leave it. AstraZeneca. I chose to take it. And I know that there are concerns about the vaccines in general, that some people have expressed concerns about side effects of AstraZeneca. And it is true that all medications and all vaccines have side effects on some people. Even the natural foods that we eat. Some people cannot eat dasheen without breaking out. Some people cannot even eat food that shellfish was cooked in a week ago. Sorry, from a pot in which shellfish was cooked a week prior. So the question of side effects is not new. Of course, we cannot be flippant about it because we are talking about people's health and people's lives. But statistically, the risk of getting seriously ill is extremely small. And all over the world, it is being shown that you stand a much greater chance of getting seriously ill from COVID or even dying from it if you're not vaccinated than if you are. So we have to be careful not to get carried away by the negativity surrounding vaccination. And I would urge people, for your own sakes and for the sake of protecting those around you, to consult with your medical professional. Consult with your doctor if you have any fears, any issues, if you have underlying medical conditions. It is always good to be on the safe side. And once you get a green light from your doctor, I would encourage people to get vaccinated, regardless of which one you choose.
Let's take a break, Mr. Andall, and when we come back, I want to switch the conversation a little bit to education. I know you're one of the NDC spokespersons on education, so we'll discuss that as school is getting ready to reopen in less than 2 weeks. So we'll talk about that in a short while. This is To The Point. We're speaking with St. Patrick West, NDC's caretaker for St. Patrick West, Joseph Andall. To The Point, we'll be right back.
Looking for that injection of vibes and energy, of course? Well, I've got just that. Hi, my name is Gary, Mr. Smooth, and I'm inviting you to join me on the Hot Morning Show on Hot 98.5, 98.7 FM. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 10 in the morning. I've got a healthy dose of your favorite and most infectious hits sampled with information, news, laughter, and all the other ingredients that go into making the hottest morning show on the radio, The Morning Heat. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit us up on WhatsApp, 435-7517. We've got topics, we've got discussions, calls, voice notes, and so much more. But I can't tell you everything. You gotta tune in. The Hot Morning Show on Hot FM 98.5, 98.7 with yours truly, Gary, Mr. Smooth. Kaboom!
Hey folks, you're invited to tune in to Grenada Music to the World program, hosted by Eugene Gittens on Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9, Hot FM 98.5, 98.7, GBN TV, and all their social media platforms. The only totally local music program in Grenada, representing all genres of music. So it's Green's Music to the World on Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on GBN with the music icon himself, Mr. Eugene Gittens. See you then.
GBN Television News at 7, a pulse on all things Grenadian. Look out for our new features through expanded synergies with our media partners in Barbados, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad, and beyond. Capturing the latest in news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Credible, informative. Thank you for making us number one. News at 7, live, Monday to Friday on GBN Television, Channel 7 and 11. K105.5 and 105.9, Hot 98.5 and 98.7, GBN Television Facebook page and YouTube channel, and www.gbn.gd. GBN, with you anywhere and everywhere.
Welcome back to The Point, speaking with NDC's caretaker for St. Patrick West, Joseph Andall. He's also one of the party's spokesmen on spokespeople on education, which is where I want to take the conversation now, Mr. Andall. Education. School is reopening in just about 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, I should say. Fingers crossed, all being well, of course, with COVID-19 protocols, regulations, and so on and so forth. But there have been some concerns in recent times with protocols in schools considering COVID-19, as well as the challenges some of our students have been facing with lack of resources, lessened or shortened time in the classroom, and so on and so forth. Are there major concerns for you as we prepare to start a new school term, a new school year, and next month, God willing? Are there any concerns for you or the party?
Yes, we have some things that are on our minds. First, we'd like to know that the Ministry of Education is on top of things in terms of Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C. We should not, I think we have had sufficient experience over the past year and a half and sufficient warning over the past few weeks to enable the ministry to put contingency plans in place. So they must be prepared for different scenarios. If we do not have an outbreak, do we continue with classes as normal, which would be logical? If we do have an outbreak, do we take the risk of reopening fully Do we go back to the early days of rotation and having limited numbers, or doing some classes full-time physical and others a combination of physical and virtual, or virtual only? Enough time has elapsed, we believe, for the kinks in the system regarding distance learning to have been worked out, if they're serious about it. The question of internet access at the schools, the question even of electrical outlets at the schools, the question of availability of working equipment for the children and the teachers so that distance learning can take place, if that is what the mode that we have to revert to. So we hope that measures have been put in place to deal with all of those contingencies should they arise. Another question on our minds is that of school repairs and school maintenance. It is not good enough that every year we have the problem of some students turning out to school in September only to be turned away for a week or two because things that should have been done in June, July, and August were neglected. So we hope that the ministry has been proactive in these areas and that necessary measures put in place to deal with all reasonably anticipatable, if that is a word, situations or scenarios, right? Now, we know that there was a lot of complaints about the functioning or malfunctioning of tablets and other equipment. And we know that technology, as good as it is, will have its shortcomings from time to time, okay? So we don't want to be too critical about that. Something we need to touch on, though, is the school books program. This is a problem. This is something that is creating a lot of headaches to many people. Even in the best of times, poor people find it difficult to find all the books, uniforms, and other equipment that their children need to be properly prepared for school. And with the economic downturn now, with many people unemployed or only partially employed, with incomes drastically cut, we know that that situation would be made even worse. When you add that to the recent big jump in the cost of living, the things that a poor man or woman could have gone to the shop before and paid $3.50 for now a pound, in some cases has escalated to $4, $5, $6 a pound. Turkey wings, chicken wings, and things of that nature. So all of those things will have implications for people's ability to prepare their children for school. We're therefore calling on the government that if they have a school books distribution program, to please administer it in a fair and just manner. Take it out of the party offices, although really they're supposed to be MP offices. In reality, they are used as party offices. Remove it from the party offices and allow the schools to deal with that problem so that the question of bias is taken out of the equation. The question of Jane applying for a voucher and then they tell her, all right, fill out a form and come with your voter ID card. And Jane doesn't hear from them again. Why? Because somebody says, when one phone call is made, hey, where Jane stand? Boy, Jane yellow as saffron. So poor Jane, although she may be the most deserving, is left out, although she's a taxpayer. So we are calling on them to administer these programs in a just and fair manner. Take it out of the political offices and let the schools deal with it. In that way, we know that there's transparency and that there is distribution based on merit and not based on perceived political affiliation.
Let's go to the viewers and listeners who may have comments, questions, queries, concerns. The landline number 435-2041. The WhatsApp number is also 435-2041. Please, only written messages on WhatsApp, and you can also post your comments, questions, queries, concerns on Facebook and YouTube. Let's go to the first caller. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, my dear sister. How you do?
Good morning, Ms. Jacob. How you do? I'm good.
I'm there, and I want to tell my beautiful, handsome brother by you there this morning. Good morning, my brother. You know who's speaking? This is Miss Jacob speaking. And I have 2 questions for you, my sweetheart. The first question, you say no. Don't put the thing in the office of the new national party. That is not the question, my dear sweetheart. You know what it? You know what all you did for me. I am a senior citizen for me, and that is government. All government stand up for the people of Grenada. But 2008, 2009, you didn't stand up for Ms. Jacob. All you say is government. Government go and government come, my dear sweetheart brother. I don't know. But I love my Tillman Thomas. If you know how I love Tillman Thomas, I love Tillman Thomas to the bone. But be careful. This thing what you say, my brother, sweetheart, although I love you, you mustn't get on like that, Popo. Because government go and government come. And everybody had to do something for one another. You know, Miss Jacob, good morning. I say hello. The government sent me to take out your water. I said, who? The government? Man, the same time I jump on the phone and I call Brother Let. Brother Let, that was a blessed man. We will never, ever get a man as Brother Let in Tendivid.
Okay.
He come down the same time, immediately he come. He said, you see this lady here? Don't touch water. Not even though thy kingdom come. Because I don't have no children. I don't have husband. I live in me alone. And why you all taking out me water? That is only one question I give. The other question I leave in a different.
Okay,
so my
Mr.
brother, darling, you have a wonderful and a blessed day.
Thank you, Ms. Jacob.
Thank you, Mrs. Jacob, and I wish you the same. Now, the question about the water, I've been on this program several times, and I believe that you have raised that issue every time, except probably the last time that I was here. My answer to you will be the same as the previous other 18 or 19 times that you have raised it. That the government of Grenada, whether headed by the New National Party, the NDC, or any other political party, does not have direct control over the distribution, supply, and billing of water. NAWASA is the authority that deals with the supply of water and with fees and so on, connection, reconnection, disconnection. So I believe you are mistaken. The NNP nor the NDC as political parties do not have that kind of authority. Now, I can understand that government from time to time may set up an arrangement with the water authority or with any other statutory body to take care of specific situations, especially of citizens in need. All right? But, you're talking about something you said happened in 2008, and we are now, 13 years gone. It is your party that you support and love that has been in office for all of that time. So that I hope that by now your parliamentary representative or whoever it is would have done something to alleviate or to fix your situation, Mrs. Jacob, okay?
All right.
And just to touch briefly on the question of party office, which she raised. This is a very serious issue. Each political party has a duty to finance its own operations. We do not have a system in Grenada where the government provides official subventions to political parties. And over the years, the ruling party has been subverting the process by using what is supposed to be the office of the parliamentary representative to do partisan work, to do party work. They go there to do their canvassing, to hold their party meetings, and so on. And what we're having in effect is the taxpayers funding the operations of a political party. I have a party office in my constituency. I have to find ways and means to pay the rent, to pay the utilities, and to give a stipend to the two people who volunteer at the office. That is my responsibility. That is our responsibility as a political party. When the NDC gets into office again and forms the government, we are going to make sure that our party offices are separate and apart from the constituency office of the parliamentary representative. That is very important. It is unfair, and I'm sure it may even be illegal for a political party to be abusing the taxpayers of this country in this manner. So, Mrs. Jacob, you seem to be a lady with a little bit of, who has been around with us for a little while. You must have picked up some wisdom over the years. I'm sure you believe in justice. I'm sure you believe in the word of the Almighty God that we must deal fair with one another. So I would urge you to talk to your MP and our beloved Prime Minister and ask them to stop doing these wrong things and do the right thing. Because, you know, Mrs. Jacob, Jesus does not like ugly.
YouTube question. Somebody asks, what did the NDC do to help the government mobilize the public and not play jab and other carnival-like activities?
We, from day one, have been calling on our citizens to be responsible, to do what is best for the protection of their health individually and collectively as a nation. So we did what we could. Unfortunately, while the authorities say something out of one side of their mouth, the other side says something totally contrary. And if that person goes back to last year, the genesis of this defiance was from the fact that government said no carnival, but then started selectively issuing permission for some favored few to hold carnival-like activities. It goes back again to if the priest could play Who Is Me. So I believe that the government eroded its own authority and credibility by setting the double standards. And we see that being manifested in other areas, such as mask wearing, for example, where ordinary people are ticketed and certain people who should be setting the tone and who ought to know better get away scot-free. So while we are not condoning or promoting those behaviors, we believe that it is important that government and government leaders and officials do what they are asking the rest of the citizens to do. In that way, trust and confidence in the process will be restored and people will be more likely to cooperate. And again, we urge people to please, for your own safety and the safety of your loved ones, observe all required COVID-19 related protocols.
Facebook question. Has the NDC done an investigation into the allegations surrounding the appointment of an assistant supervisor of elections? The Electoral Office has constitutional independence, and the appointment of party politicals should be concerning to anyone concerned about democracy.
Right. The deputy supervisor of election is a constitutional position, and the appointment of people to fill positions at the National Parliamentary Elections Office and sub-offices is in the hands of the Governor General. We have noticed a very, very troubling trend over the past few years where, let us be frank, the new National Party and the Prime Minister in particular, appear to have been exerting a lot of undue influence over the electoral office. At the risk of being accused of going back in time, I want to jog people's memory to the statement made by the Prime Minister that if you're in office, you win 11 seats, you control the electoral process, and next election you cannot win a seat, something has to be wrong with you. That is a very, very troubling statement, and when we spoke about it, people did not take us seriously about it. Then, following I think it was the first referendum, or it may have been the second referendum. No, the first referendum, which was well executed. Some people may not have liked the result, but no one could question the efficacy of the process. There was a massive firing of some of the most competent registration/returning officers. That is not an invention of Andall or of the NDC. The one from Carriacou, from St. Patrick East, a number of them, St. John, were replaced. And the replacements, in many cases, calling them square peg in a round hole is being overly kind. Some of them did not know how to turn on a computer. Some of them were just plain and simple party hacks who had to depend on other people to get the job done. So I am glad that the person raised that issue. And this is something that we will be following up on vigorously, and we'll be enlisting the support of the entire Grenadian community and the international community as well. If people do not have faith in the integrity of the electoral process, then your democracy is under a serious threat. I go around the country, I engage people, particularly in St. Patrick West, and I will not repeat some of the things coming especially from young people regarding the way they feel hemmed in, stifled, and almost as if their will does not matter, because there is a perception among a large number of people that the system is compromised and that it is almost futile to try to work within it. We have to guard against that becoming more widespread. And we are calling on all relevant authorities, on civil society and other interested Grenadians to come together to make sure that we have a free and open electoral process where the parliamentary offices are not abused for partisan ends, where the registration process is totally above board, where the mobile registration unit, for example, has not been functioning for the longest while. I have a list of people in St. Patrick West, people who are disabled, who are housebound, who are simply too old to move about, that cannot be registered or receive their new ID card because we are told that the mobile unit is not working. That is a clear violation of the rights of those citizens. And we are making the call publicly to the supervisor of election and to the Governor General to take immediate steps to remedy that situation. We cannot continue like that. We know that the date for an election is kept in the Prime Minister's back pocket, as we say. So that is a built-in advantage. We know they say that the old ID cards expired a year and change ago. We have to ensure that everyone who wants a new ID card is able to access it immediately. There is nothing stopping the Prime Minister from going to Parliament and changing the law to say that only people with a valid ID card can vote, regardless of whether your name is on the list or not. Nothing to stop him from doing that. So that is why it is so important that everything at that office be done in a meticulous and transparent manner, right? We've been hearing about instances where some people go to get a new ID card, offices are closed, or they are told about technical difficulties preventing them from doing it. We're hearing all kinds of rumors and allegations. And all of those must be taken in the context of the pronouncements of the Prime Minister some years ago, his attempt to move the server into his office, his firing of Judy Benoit, the resignation of Mr. Aaron Francois, the removal of McBurney and others, and the summary dismissal of all of those registration officers. These are very, very serious matters that should be of concern to all of us.
Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning to you, Blossom, and to your guests this morning, and to your followers. I agree with Mr. Andall about the 48-hour window for folks who are vaccinated. I hope that this can be revisited and revisited speedily, because, of course, someone can even contract the virus in travel. You won't know that in 48 hours. There was a flight who came in the last time with 6 positive cases on that flight. You know how many persons were could have been exposed on that one flight? So I agree with that. Another concern I have, I agree 100% with the restrictions in terms of movement to a point. But I cannot understand why it has to be from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Now, what happens between 4 and 5 a.m. in the morning? No one will go and open a bar between 4 and 5 in the morning. What happens between 4 and 5? People use it for exercise. People use it to prep their work. Farmers use it to get to their garden. So what happens during that time is basically productive activities and health-related activities, not group activities. So I've mentioned it before when it was there and they brought it back to 5 to 4. I don't see how it is serving us to have people spend that extra hour in their houses. I don't see how it can risk anyone. I believe that common sense will let us know that we are losing an important hour every morning of preparation and productivity and for the well-being of our people. Because, if you have to go to work for 8 and you have to leave home at 6:30 or 7, there is no way you could go exercising at 5 in the morning.
Okay.
And I've heard of cases where people were stopped at 10 minutes to 5, 5 minutes to 5 on the road for walking. This is a matter, I think, that the NDC should take up and the government should revisit. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Stand up.
Thank you for that intervention, caller, and I think this is something that we will take up. Very good point.
Final comments, Mr. Andall, as we wrap this morning. Final comments.
Yes. So, final comments. Once again, thank you for having the NDC on the program. We appreciate the opportunity to air our views and make our suggestions. We call on the leaders of our country, leaders of political parties, business, labor, particularly leaders of government, to lead by example, to observe all COVID-19 protocols. We call on our citizens to protect yourselves, protect your families, obey the protocols, cooperate with the health officials and with the Royal Grenada Police Force. We hope that the virus spread can be contained. We think it is important that the government immediately go back to minimum 1 week quarantine, whether vaccinated or not. We believe that a collaborative effort is needed involving government, business, labor, other political actors to come to a consensus in terms of how we can face this national challenge together. Regarding education, we are calling on the ministry, even at this late stage, to make sure that all systems are in place for the reopening of school, that you have contingency plans in place to deal with the different possible scenarios. We call on the ministry and on the good Christian Minister of Education to please ensure that the distribution of vouchers and other education-related material is done on a totally non-partisan basis. Put it back in the hands of the school officials so that you don't have to have debushing hotline, voucher hotline, and all kinds of things like that. You know the way you set up your system to work, so you know what is needed to fix it. And again, going back to the health situation, we call on government to set up properly staffed and equipped national quarantine facilities to prepare for any possible major outbreak of COVID-19. I'm asking citizens to please stop spreading misinformation, because we are contributing to the crisis when the more we spread things, that if we take a little time and research it on the same Google, you'd realize that what you're spreading there is false propaganda. You are causing people to become frightened, to panic, and to not take things that will protect themselves and protect us all. So once again, thank you to GBN, and we hope and pray that we all face this challenge in a united manner so that we can overcome it together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Andall. Appreciate your appearance this morning, sir, and continue to stay safe.
Thanks.
Have a good day. NDC's caretaker for St. Patrick West, Joseph Andall, our guest this morning. We thank him so very much for passing through on To The Point. And thank you, viewers and listeners, for tuning in. Always appreciate your listenership and your viewership. We are getting ready for the broadcast of this morning's post-cabinet briefing, which will be facilitated by Minister of Health Nicholas Steele and the Acting Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sean Charles. The program will be carried live on most GBN platforms at the top of the hour, so stay tuned right here. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. I'll be back tomorrow morning, God willing. Bye-bye.